This is Dr. David Allen. I hope you've listened to this dear lady, Dr. Tameka Johnson Dames, a highly qualified psychiatrist, a brilliant woman, but who has also maintained her faith and has a commitment to public health and helping and healing people. It's so encouraging for me. I hope you feel it in your heart. And as we enter our 50th year of independence, I feel so good that we have some bright young people and women and men coming along who I feel the country is in very good hands. I'm encouraged. And of course, she studied this very complex subject, um, cannabis psychosis and how it relates to schizophrenia. Very complex. But she has an interesting finding, which we all must listen to her. And all she is saying as we rush to legalize, she's saying stop, look, and listen. The other thing she said, remember, if you're going to legalize, you're going to have to increase the resources. And right now, we're just maxed. Without resources, treating a psychosis is virtually impossible.
Yeah.
You can't treat them at home. And as she said, it's a lifelong sentence. And so, as we come to the end of our program, Dr. Tameka Johnson Dames, this must affect you as a human person and a spiritual person when you see the pain in your country.
So, definitely, I have a few words for different groups of people, if I can break it down in that way. So, firstly, for the young men that haven't tried it before. So now we would have presented you with a little more information. If you didn't know, some people may be aware and still take the risk, but if you didn't know what's currently happening at Sandilands, that we have so many cases, that we have so many young men and women that come in that have been negatively impacted by the use of cannabis and its effects on mental health. Reconsider whether or not that's a risk that you want to take. For your families, for the families of persons that are currently struggling with addiction to these drugs like cannabis, who are currently struggling with the psychotic illnesses or other mental health ailments that come about as a result, possibly, of using these substances. And now you're left to pick up the pieces, whether it is that you have to now take care of this person financially because they can no longer function, whether you have to now take care of their children, whether you have to now rebuild, because there are persons that mention, this person in their unwell state, they've destroyed property in the homes, they've stolen things and sold it in order to purchase drugs. They've destroyed other person's property, and now the family has to suffer the consequences of having to recoup those funds. So for those families that are going through these illnesses, I sympathize with you. I understand how difficult, how challenging it is. Continue to support your loved ones. We do our best as mental health professionals, but having family support definitely helps them to get over the hump, definitely helps them to continue to follow up and do what they need to do so that hopefully they can get on the right track. And then for persons that are in positions of power, this is also an urge to you as well. So, like I had mentioned earlier in the show, I can't speak to all of the pros and all of the cons. My role as a psychiatrist would be to speak to those mental health effects of cannabis. So definitely we know what we see on the ground because we're in there in the trenches. We see these admissions coming in. We see how hard and how difficult it is sometimes to manage these cases. We see how saddening it is when those persons end up developing these chronic, lifelong mental health illnesses. So what we are saying is, give us more help, give us more in the budget so that the resources are there, so that when these persons end up with these illnesses, that we are able to effectively manage them. It is impossible for us to manage persons when we don't have room in the inn to manage them, when we don't have enough staff to manage them, when we don't have all of the funds to be able to get these programs off the ground so that we can effectively deal with these issues in our community. So take these things into consideration. I think we all want the best for our country and for our society, but it's important for us to look at all sides of the spectrum and for us to address all of the issues that could possibly present. So the positive effects on the economy, that's wonderful, that's excellent. But let's bear in mind what can happen to the mental health of these persons. And let's always think about ways that we can put some things in place before. Let's not wait until the problem comes. Let's put some things in place before that starts. And once we have these resources in place, the decisions that you make when you think about everything in total and you think about, is it more positive? Is it leaning more towards the negative? Whatever the decision is, let's do more for mental health even before we get to that point. Those would be my take-home points for today.
Dr. Tameka Johnson Dames, thank you for your excellent presentation. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your brightness and your aliveness in facing these issues. A very difficult issue, cannabis psychosis. You studied this and now you've warned us about it. We have to go back and think about what you said, and I hope that people can, write. If you want to meet Dr. Johnson Dames, you write my office or call my office, 327-8718 or 327-8719. We can put you in contact with her. But you made a tremendous contribution.
Thank
and you presented so well. And may God bless you and your husband and your child.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here today. I'm sure this can bless many people, because this is a subject we have to deal with.
Yes.
Thank you again, and God bless you, and God bless the Bahamas.
Thank you.
Good night.